Hello and welcome to another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson, the government and political correspondent. And today we don't have a politician, we don't have a government employee per se, but we do have something that is definitely pro-community, and that is my guest, Dave Drewiske. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Nice to be here.
And for some of our viewers, they're gonna recognize Dave from the different worlds or careers, if you will, that you've led. I guess, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about, you're originally from Ellsworth and where you went to school and how you ended up in Hudson.
Well, I followed my dad and several uncles to UW River Falls, where I was a scientific land management major, along with biology, earth science, and almost a minor in economics. But basically what I wanted to be was either an extension agent, like my dad was, or a park manager. I ended up working for a couple of years on the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway as a park naturalist and planner.
Okay.
And due to some budget things that even happened back in the 70s, I ended up with University Extension as what they called a community development agent in central Wisconsin. And from there, I went back to grad school in Madison, where I had earned a degree in urban and regional planning and real estate appraisal and investment finance.
Okay.
So that combination of things led me to a job with 3M Real Estate that I ended up making a 31-year career out of.
Okay. And so you're now retired from 3M.
I am.
How long ago was that?
9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you're into the busy phase in your life, right? You retired from the career, but along the way, there's people that will know you as a hockey dad, right?
Yeah, that happened almost by accident, because growing up as a wrestler in Ellsworth, you're expecting your boys to be wrestlers, and then I married a gal from central Wisconsin who had brothers who were wrestlers, so I thought it was a certainty that my boys would be wrestlers. But I was away on a 3M business trip, and remember the Thursday folders?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the boys came home with try hockey, and so she signed them up for hockey, and the rest is history. So it turned out to be a wonderful ride for us.
Yeah. So, yeah, people might recognize that Drewiske name. You got a couple pro hockey players in the family there. And
they took after their mom, yeah. But we have a great program here, and we're really proud of it because we're the only private nonprofit that owns and operates 2 hockey rinks, I think, in the country.
Wow.
So, great volunteers, great people.
Well, that's one aspect of the community that people know you. In addition, kind of a regional thing, the Kinnickinnick River Land Trust. You got very involved with that, especially after retiring. Served as an interim director.
Yeah, for a couple years. It was at a time when we needed it. The Land Trust had done great things protecting the river, and the properties that they acquired to stop developments in the 80s and early 90s were through private loans from basically family entities. And while the families had kind of changed their course and told us they wouldn't be renewing our loans, so we had to scramble and find a way to retire that debt. And then find a source of operating income. And luckily we had a good enough story to both retire the debt and find another foundation that gave the Land Trust operating funds that enabled us to hire a full-time executive director and a conservationist. So it turned out really well. And believe it or not, that river has the highest trout population in the eastern United States.
Wow.
It's incredible water quality.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to get better when they work through the process of removing the dams in the city of River Falls.
Yeah, it's a true fly fishing mecca. the Kinney is.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. You think you're in Montana when you're in the lower river, yeah.
So with all of that experience, a vocational career in land management and land acquisition, but extension agent, and now very involved with Hudson Daybreak Rotary, and we've had our tree planting project that you've headed up. So again, it's all about the community and future, whether it's athletics or whether it's environment and so forth. So that's what we're really here to talk about today, was the tree planting program. So why tree planting after retiring from 3M?
Well, I was one of 5 boys, and my dad was always looking for ways to keep us busy. As an extension agent, one of his jobs was promote soil and water conservation, and one of the best ways to do that was to plant trees. And I brought some trees.
Okay, great.
These are what they call Norway spruce.
Okay.
Which, if you see those little country churches with the tall, dark spruce trees lining the perimeter with the droopy needles,
Yeah.
those are Norway spruce.
Okay.
So I got these from the Audubon Society. I'm looking for a good place to put them. So that was one reason. And the other thing is, I think, just almost nostalgia, because 3rd Street that I drove to get here had the nice homes, and then that it was lined with big, beautiful elm trees that arched over the top. And
provided a canopy to our streets.
And just a wonderful, wonderful setting. The farmhouse I grew up in was the exact same way. We had 7 big, beautiful elm trees that gave us shade, through the hot months. We never needed air conditioning, just a fan, because those trees provided shade, and trees basically breathe water mist. And so you not only get shade, but you get the cooling effect of them transpiring water. So anyway, it was kind of a passion. And I found out that just across the river, there was a farm by Afton that had a long driveway with 30 elm trees along it.
Okay.
Dutch elm came through, killed 29 of those trees.
And Dutch Elm Disease is, how is that communicated?
It's a fungus that underneath the bark of a tree is the living layer of the tree that it's called the cambium layer, and it brings water and nutrients from the roots up into the branches. Dutch elm clogs that and basically strangles the tree.
Okay.
So it is invariably fatal to a vast majority of elm trees, but that one tree didn't die.
Okay.
An arborist from the University of Minnesota saw that tree, knocked on the door of the farmer and asked him if they could investigate the tree. So they inoculated it not once but twice with Dutch elm fungus and didn't kill it. So then they aligned with Bailey's Nursery to start propagating that tree. So it is an American elm. It's native to the St. Croix Valley. I was so excited to find that out. I went over and met with the Baileys to see if we could get that tree to plant here around Hudson, and they said yes. So that was kind of our flagship tree. I have in my own yard, I plant a tree for every grandchild. We just had number 9 today.
Okay.
But I've planted St. Croix elms, and the first ones I planted were 5 years ago, the first year of our Rotary program, and those are already almost 5 inches in diameter.
Wow. And
over 30 feet tall. So there's hope that we can have those tree-lined streets again.
So, and we hear about the concrete taking over areas. Hudson has certainly grown in the 35 years I've been here. And we have lost major trees, whether it's through the Dutch elm or oak wilt is another one, and then most recently emerald ash borer. And it's sad because obviously it's part of our community that's gone, but this is the promise that our tree planting program can bring to the future of a community.
Yeah, we really want it to be called a tree diversity program.
Okay.
Hudson, the city has an urban forestry group. They've got, their parks and planning department is very aware of this. They started planning for this over 10 years ago because they knew that the next bad thing, which was emerald ash borer, was on its way. One of the biggest problems we lost our elm trees and we replaced them with ash trees, monoculture.
Right.
And if you drive down Grandview or on, there's a number of streets in town where there's big ash trees that are being taken down. So it's, what we need is a variety. And our program through Rotary, over the this is our 6th year, but we've offered 20 different varieties of trees to plant.
And I noticed you change it up a little bit each year with one or two varieties. So what was offered this year?
We had a maple, a matador maple, which was a combination of a red and a silver maple. So it'll be fast growing, strong limbed, beautiful crimson color. We had the St. Croix elms have gotten so popular we couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
So we planted a Princeton elm,
okay.
Which very similar history.
Okay.
Thankfully, other parts of the country had one of those special trees that survived too. We planted a boulevard linden, which is a common name is basswood tree.
Okay.
The amazing thing about those is they've got one of the most fragrant flowers, and a flower that bees love more than anything else when they blossom. So it's a basswood tree.
Okay.
And then we had I like to forage. I was out morel hunting yesterday.
Okay.
But one of my favorite fruit trees is called the serviceberry. And one of the trees we offered was a serviceberry.
That's the one that I got planted.
And then finally a crabapple, I forget the variety, but a nice seed-bearing crabapple that's got wildlife and pollinator benefits. So that was our slate for this year.
And in the past, I know you also offered birch, because I got 3 clumps of birch trees in my front, and you helped pick out the spot where to put them. So how do people know? I know it's going to be depending on the individual person, what kind of situation they have for land and so forth. But how can people make those kind of determinations of which of these varieties to plant?
So I think kind of break it down, but it's going to be soils, water, sun, and room.
Okay.
So, but soils, sand is very light, which some trees can tolerate that. Other trees won't do very well, with a light soil without a lot of available.
Is that why we see like pines a lot in sandy?
Like a red pine is going to do very well, or red or Norway. That's same tree. Yes, that's why they're planted there. They'll thrive in that. On the other hand, say a maple or an elm will actually do well with wet feet.
Okay.
So it depends on, if you look at what kind of drainage you have.
Yep.
The elm trees that I planted in my yard, for instance, we buried our downspouts and put those elm trees right off the end of where the downspouts drained, and they took off like rockets. So if you've got a situation like that.
Or is it true of maple and elms that the root system is about as wide as the branches on the tree?
Yeah, it would be the canopy of the tree, and it's almost like a mirror image.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are those good, like if you start to have a little crevice growing from, erosion, is that a type of tree that you'd want to get planted at the top of that crevice to stop the erosion? Are those good for that?
A tree will help. The absolute best tree for erosion control would be a willow.
Okay.
But that you'll see those along streams where they've got red roots and they're just like little tentacles through the soil. And even with like some of the big floods we've had in recent years, that soil holds up where there's willow trees.
Is there certain trees that are in the program that need more care than others? High maintenance trees versus, or are pretty much all trees when they're small something you got to watch for the first couple of years, keep them moist enough?
Yeah, if you take care of your tree, it'll take care of you. I mean, what we recommend is taking a look at the root ball, and these are all bare root trees, so
Okay.
you can see the entire root structure. You'll want to give them ample room to encompass the whole circumference of the root mass. And then one of the biggest issues that people have is planting them either too high or too deep. And what you want is to put about a half an inch of soil over the top root.
Okay.
So if this was the stem and that top root was right there,
Okay.
you'd probably cover it up to the top of my finger. That's.
Right. But there's that sometimes a knob at the bottom of trees that's sometimes can be 3-4 inches above that top
Yeah.
root. You don't want to necessarily
Oh,
plant
no,
it
no,
to that
no,
knob.
that is actually a graft.
Okay.
A lot of trees, there's a different root than stem.
Okay.
So that what you're seeing, that knob, is a graft, and you do not want to cover that. You only want to cover the roots.
All right. So, you got all these different types of trees. Where can people go to try and learn about what might be best for their situation?
Well, these trees that I have right here are from Audubon Society.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to try to sell you things.
Sure.
And I would go with unbiased sources first. Audubon Society has got some great videos and how to do it, because they've been around since, 100 years to promote planting trees.
Right.
The University Extension, both University of Wisconsin and University of Minnesota, have excellent.
So extension services. would be-
Yes.
Okay.
Then, that's the background you need. And I think it's also, back to the question of what kind of tree do I pick. A lot of it depends on how much room you have. That's
Okay.
why in our Rotary program, we offer both small, medium,
Right.
and large trees.
Yes.
All trees need to be planted properly. All trees need to be stabilized. I think it helps every single tree to put mulch around it, and especially for that first year to water it
Right.
on a weekly
Retains
basis.
moisture even when it starts to
Yeah.
get dry. That
Yeah.
helps cool the roots and.
Yeah. So they'll do well. If you take care of them and if you put them in the right spot.
And expectations, got big, beautiful 100-year-old trees that end up coming down. You don't get a giant tree overnight, but there are certain trees that grow faster than others, right?
Yes. Probably the spectrum would be an elm is going to grow about as fast as anything if it's in the right location. An oak is going to be fairly slow. One of the reasons that maples typically are a slow grower too, but when these hybrid maples, like a combination of silver and red, you get silver maple's a fast growing tree, and you hybridize it with a red, and you get attributes from both.
Okay.
So basswood grows fast too, but some of these trees, the smaller trees like the crab apples and serviceberries, if you're planting them to be a small tree or a shrub, then
you're not doing it for necessarily shade.
Right. Right. But they're great for, I love service berries. When they're ripe, you just got to beat the birds to them.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm going to be looking forward to that. So we have, like I said, we had viewers that have all types of different residences and country, city. Again, do your research before you dig the holes. Would that be your advice?
Yeah, and call Digger's Hotline. You
Right.
do not.
Very, very important.
One time in my life, I've cut it wasn't a gas line, it was a utility line. It was my phone line.
Okay.
And it wasn't where it was supposed to be, but it was there.
Well, this year when I got that service berry tree, and all we had to do was call. It was at least 4 business days before, so we knew we were picking up the tree on Friday because we planted those at the high school this year on a Friday. And that Monday before I called, they were actually out by Tuesday, end of business. They already had my whole yard marked.
Yeah, and my experience is the same. Never more than about 2 days. So it's not like it's going to hold up your parade.
Right, and there's no cost. That's
right.
And it reduces your liability and your risk of harm to yourself too.
Right. A little bit later on, once they're good and established, your biggest danger, especially in the fall here, is deer.
Yeah.
You saw it at the high school. We had 2/3 of our trees were damaged by deer.
Yeah.
And so putting a tube on them.
I was going to say, that service berry, we put it in woven wire, and I raised the woven wire just a little bit so I could get the mower edge underneath it. Wouldn't you know it, the rabbits just went to town on that service berry in the first week, and I could see that they've been nibbling. So we ended up getting that plastic tube on there, and the tree has lost me now, so at least the rabbits didn't kill it. But there is a threat that rodents and deer play on trees.
Right. That's one of the things. You got a native tree, they know about it, and it's probably tasty. I think tubes are pretty effective, and then once they outgrow the tube, the tree's usually big enough to get along without it.
Right.
Same with staking. I mean, you stake it to make sure the tree is stabilized. Staking will discourage deer too. I won't guarantee they won't mess with it, but it'll discourage them.
We saw that at the high school. It wasn't quite enough to keep those pests away, but the tube is definitely, and I noticed the tubes that I got, they come split already, so you don't even have to take a box knife to it. It's just something that will expand with the tree, and eventually you can take it off. Any other good tips? I mean, we talked about the watering. I've seen fertilizer spikes. Are those something that you absolutely need, or are there certain types of varieties of trees that need them more than others?
They will help a tree. You want a slow release, and you want to keep it within the canopy.
Okay.
I think that the other things of stabilizing it, planting it at the right depth, and giving it water, will benefit it more than fertilizer.
Okay.
So I mean, if everything else is taken care of, then fertilizer will probably help.
All the fertilizer in the world's not going to help if you're not giving it water when it's young, right?
Right, and that's. I mean, we just got over. Last year was a wonderful year for planting trees because we had so much moisture.
Right.
My rain gauge says we got 2 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, so that's going to be a big help for all
we
the
wanted
trees.
to do this interview outside, but we're here in the studio because it was raining so good today.
Yeah, no, it's but if you're getting rain, you don't need to water it. But if you're going for a week or more without rain, it's good to water that new tree.
Okay.
And then finally, you trimming or pruning the trees as they get established is important.
Okay.
and that there's plenty of university extension and other guidance on that. But number one, if limbs are too low, for you to mow around it comfortably, you can take those off. You want to mow, in the fall or early spring, and then treat that wound with some like spray tar or something.
Okay.
So you don't invite disease.
So when you prune it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it does. You should plan, to do some pruning on trees to get them to grow with strength and vitality and without being a nuisance.
Okay.
So.
But and you mentioned pruning. I notice black cherry and the maple have a tendency down near the base. They'll start to grow new trees down
suckers,
there.
Yeah, shoots.
Suckers.
Yeah. Those don't do you any good. They sap vitality from the tree.
So clip those anytime. You don't have to wait to a certain month to do that type of pruning.
I think when you're doing your spring cleanup, those can come off.
Okay.
The one thing though is if some trees that do sucker, if a storm breaks off the stem, and it's maybe not in your front yard but on a side yard, you can actually train the most vigorous of those sprouts to, because that root system is still there.
Right.
And those sprouts can grow incredibly fast.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I had one of the first trees I planted was a nice red maple on the edge of my yard, and I have a dog in the yard, but a deer still came by and got that tree, and I was gonna take it out, but then it sent up a sprout. I let that sprout go, and that sprout is now as big as the tree I lost. It was 3 years ago.
Wow.
But it's as big. Okay. So you can, if it's not an aesthetic thing, right? If you just want a tree to grow, some species will regenerate pretty fast.
Okay.
So.
Any other things that folks could, maybe we should give a plug to our vendor that's been.
Willow River.
Who we've been working with.
Yeah, Willow River Tree Service has been a fantastic partner. I mean, this would not have happened without them. Eric Shimon, one of the, it's a father and 3 sons that started Willow River. They happened to be neighbors of ours and played hockey with my boys, so I've known them since before they could skate. Okay. But they've got a great business. They've been a great partner. They provide those trees at cost.
And that cost range from like
25 to 35. Yes. And if you look around, those trees would cost you minimum double, probably triple.
Yeah. Yeah, I've paid $150 before for a Dakota spruce tree, for example. But these are, again, I've got several in my yard, maple, birch. I've planted elm before, and now this year with the serviceberry. So good things with the Willow River folks, and they'll also give you some good tips too.
Yeah, they're a multifaceted company, very fair, good to deal with. Great selection of other plants if you're doing things besides trees to beautify your home and yard. So yeah, everything circles back. Early in the interview, you said your undergrad involved also economics, but trees are definitely an investment that has a long return. They are. When you think about these little trees right here, I mean, so believe it or not, there's 10 of them in here.
10 trees right there.
Yeah, and the longest is probably 18 inches, and there's some 12-footers. These things over their life will, at a minimum, double on average. Yeah. Every year in height. And sometimes they can grow 2 to 3 feet in a year with the right conditions. So the best time to plant a tree is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And as long as we're on that, you know, tree planting is encouraged in the spring, up until around June 1st.
Okay.
But in the fall, it's also a very good time.
All right.
Typically mid-September to, for about a month there, from say Labor Day up until mid-October, you can
Before that
plant.
first frost. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as, and it's, believe it or not, more important to water trees in the fall than it is in the spring, because our moisture cycle here, it's wetter in the spring typically.
Right.
Whereas in
right.
the fall, it's dry. So it's more important, if you're planting in the fall, be very diligent about watering.
Okay. So folks, remember to plant in the fall, and check out those websites of the Extension, University River Falls Extension. We'll give you tips, and also check out the Willow River tree folks, which are just east of Hudson, off of Kelly Road. Anything else, Dave, that you wanted to add? Otherwise, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. It's a passion. I think it's really helps to beautify our community, and whether it's our parks or your front yard, it's important to have trees.
Absolutely. So. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your work, and proud to be a Rotarian with you, Dave.
As am I.
All right.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for coming on the show, and thank you for watching another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson. Keep watching.